Okay, this is just going to be a very simple demonstration based on the stupid simple rig from the previous lesson. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how to set up the joints of the spine. Now keep in mind the joints, the location of the joints and how they move. That's all going to be dependent on what type of character you're building. But this is just a really simple method of getting your joints in your spine to be able to move without having to do any really sophisticated rigging like the stretchy spine, which is in another video. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to make a circle, NURB circle. I'm going to use my V key to just snap. What I'm going to do is just duplicate it and continue to snap them up to each one of these individual spine joints. Now I can do the exact same thing to the neck joints because the neck is going to move essentially the same way, and then lastly the head. Now because all of these different curves are now sitting in a different location, they have different translates. I'm going to freeze transforms on this, so now they're all at 0. Now some of these perform very specific tasks. For example, I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger because this is going to be the main move tool, the one that moves the entire skeleton, because its corresponding joint is actually the root joint. Now this little guy just underneath that, I'm going to make a little bit of a wiggly shape by selecting every other vertex point. I'm just going to pull that down, and that is going to allow us to wiggle our hips independently from moving the body itself. Okay, so after just making those little adjustments, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take each one of these curves and I'm going to parent it to the curve just below it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the hypergraph so you can actually see what I'm doing while I'm doing it here as well. Okay, so just to let you know, these are all the joints. Of course, this first joint is all the way at the bottom because that was the first one I made, and this one's all the way at the top. Now, you can do this one of two ways. I can either take this NURB circle, use my middle mouse button, and just drag it over to the other. Now I've officially parented it to that one. Or, if you're doing it inside of here, you can actually just say, select this one, shift, and select the next one in the row, and hit P. So you can see they're doing the exact same thing, but I'm just going to, real quick, parent all of these together, just like that. Now the reason that we made that entire process, oh hold on, I think I made a mistake. Yep, okay, that one's supposed to be, okay, so now I'm correct because that's going to be the root joint. That's going to be moving the root joint. And this little guy is just going to be parented back up. Now, if you look carefully, you can see that the reason that we did this was to mimic all of the joints of the spine. So you can see that this joint, which represents this one, is that one right there. And this joint is for that curve, and so on. Now, if I were to grab hold of one of these curves and rotate it, notice how the rest of them bend simply because they're being told to follow this one. Well, the exact same thing is going to happen if I were to rotate the joints. Notice how they look like they fit together. Well, that's really all we're going to do, but instead of trying to rotate the two of them together, we're going to let the animator just select the curve. And what's going to happen is each curve is simply going to tell its corresponding joint how to rotate. So it's very simple how to do that. Inside of constraint, we're going to look for the orient constraint. I'm going to turn on maintain offset. That way, in case any of these were rotated ever so slightly, everything's going to work properly. Now remember, for orient constraints, what you're going to be doing is the first thing that you select is like saying I, control, and then whoever gets selected second is I, control, you. Alright, so I'm going to hit apply, and then you can see that when I select that curve, of course the joint turns purple, which is a good sign, and there it is. Alright, now I'm just going to continue doing that throughout the entire process. So I'm going to take this one, go to its joint, and hit apply. go to the next one, select that, hit apply. Go to the next one, and apply. So this is a fairly simple process. It's just repetition. And once you really start to get a handle on it, it's actually quite easy. Now this last one, notice that I did not create an orient constraint on this main move tool. Now I'm going to make a constraint for that, but not just this second, because I want to show you something. If I were to simply pull these out of the way and still select one of these curves, it bends the joints because it's being told to. Now, if I select many of them and bend them all, I'm going to get a bent spine. Now I'm just going to undo to bring all of this back together. But I wanted to show you that because this is very misleading. This makes it look as though these joints are actually moving, or excuse me, these curves are actually moving these joints. That's not what's happening. This curve is rotating, and because the joints were told to bend when the curve bends, it's kind of an illusion. It looks as though all of this is still connected. Well, the one thing that we need to do is, if this is going to become the master move tool, then we have to get these joints to follow that curve. And we do that with a parent constraint. So now, if I tried to move this around, notice that the whole skeleton is following along. Of course, we have to also set the preferred angle on straight joints, otherwise joints don't know, so we'll do that. Then just send it all back to 0. So now I can actually do this. So from there to there, from there to there, grab both of them, hit a key. So now when I grab the body, notice that it all seems to work together. So the knees are working because the IK handles are telling them to stay put, and the whole character is moving around from that base move. And what's also really nice is, now that I've put the IK handles in there, you can see that this creates this adorable little hip wiggle, which of course always gets a laugh when I do that in class. Also, just keep in mind that the human body doesn't really work that way. The only reason that that reads so well is, while the human body, we can make our hips wiggle, but we're doing things very differently than this. But it is just a very easy time saver. So if I grab hold of all of my spine joints, you can see this character bends and flexes. And same thing goes with the neck bones and the head. The character can look around. And it's really that easy. Now, when it comes down to starting to set up your entire character, just keep in mind that the main move all, that's what this would be called, would be based at the base of the character. And this is the one where this and the IK handles and any controllers that might be working the IK handles would all be parented to that, so that you can move the character wherever he needs to go, set him up, and then that's when you would animate the character walking away from that center move tool. Okay? So hopefully that just clarifies a couple of simple things. And just remember that the other videos are quite detailed when it comes to setting up the entire body for the Stupid Simple rig. Alright, so good luck and enjoy.